So you can create a test saying that yes, it is reducing, or you can say it is not reducing, or say whether he wants to know whether the public prefers a certain color. Say this year whether they are preferring black or blue, they are preferring black or not. Or you can say automobile manufacturing is interested in determining whether the seatbelt will reduce the severity of injuries, whether the seatbelt will reduce or not. So these are the cases where you just want to test based upon some data. Or you can say whether this medicine, say COVID vaccine, is curing the disease or not. So what you will do is you will have a set of data with you. Set of data in the sense, you have a, say in COVID vaccine case, maybe you will have a set of sample with you, say 100 people, those who are injected with the medicine, and they will continue finding out or checking the details of those people, say BP, sugar level, or all those things they'll continuously monitor, and they'll keep on feeding upon. Then once, say 2 months of test is over, you have a data set with you with all the features. And ultimately you just want to uh, create or find out whether this medicine is curing the disease or not. Okay, so that is the major thing, or that is the common thing which we want to test in all those cases. And ultimately again, the cases you will never be able to find out, or you will never be able to say 100% of the time yes, this medicine is going to cure, or 100% of the time the seat belt is reducing the severity of the accident, or 100% of the time people are preferring black. There is no such conclusion you can make out of this inferential statistics or hypothesis testing. To an extent, say you can say that, say 90% of the time, or 90% of the confidence, you can say that people are preferring black color, or say 99% of the time this medicine will cure the disease. Okay? So depending upon the criticality of application, you can say whether this is 90 percentage or 99%. Say in the case of color preference of a t-shirt, maybe you can say 90% of the time or 95% of the time. But if it is the case of a medicine, you have to say 99% of the time this is going to cure the disease. So this is what is called your inferential statistics or hypothesis testing. Inferential statistics is done with a set of hypothesis testing. Actually, I'm not going to go into the detail of hypothesis testing because that itself is a very big topic. I will just give you an introduction about the hypothesis testing, and then we will see a few examples, smaller examples on how to do that with Python. Okay, so this is what we will do with a very simple example. I have few more examples with you. Maybe you can just try this out. So first, these type of questions you can address through statistical hypothesis testing, whether or you want to take a decision uh, to whether you have to give this medicine or not, or what is the color preference. All these decisions about the population you will be able to identify using this hypothesis testing on sample data. This is what we are going to do with the hypothesis testing. The NDC COVID medicine, you won't be able to administer this to all the patients. What you will do is you will select a set of people, that is called sample. Then on the sample you will apply, and finally you will conclude, since the 100 people it is working like this, maybe 99% of the time this will be the property of the medicine for rest of the people. This is what you will be able to do, and this is called your hypothesis testing. This is used at so many places, even in the industry, making good business decisions. At so many places you will be using the statistical hypothesis testing, and instead of processing the entire population, you will start processing a smaller sample, and you will take a decision on the sample, and you will generalize this for your population. So this is what is called generally hypothesis testing. So I think already I told you, statistical hypothesis is an assumption about a population parameter. It is not considering the entire population. It is taking only a sample. Again, the second point, it is it is to be considered. The assumption may or may not be true. We can't say 100% of the time the assumption which we are making it will be true. You can say only with some certainty or with some uh, confidence you can say it is correct, or at times maybe there is a chance of it will fail. Okay, you can never guarantee 100 percentage assurance for this test. Generally, hypothesis testing is having these many number of steps. You have to create a null and alternative hypothesis. I will just tell you an example of null and alternative hypothesis. Then collect the relevant data from the sample. Then decide the level of significance. I think already I told you this point. With what significance you want to make a final decision. Say 95% of confidence, or 99% of the confidence, or say 90% of the confidence is enough because it is not a life critical application at all. So that is your decide upon what is the level of significance you want. Then compute the test value, or test value. There are equations for finding out the test value. Then find the critical values. Critical value, say we will process this with an example of normal distribution. So hope all of you know the normal distribution table, how to look up the normal distribution table. Then you have two methods for doing the hypothesis testing. One is doing critical value method, one is using p value method. So in Python, normally those functions it will return you p value. So with the critical value and the p value, you will be able to make a decision. Then yes, you got a critical value or a p value. The last step is make a decision to reject or not reject the null hypothesis. So these are the steps. Finally, summarize your result. So this is what you will be doing for each and every hypothesis testing. Again, there are so many tests you can do with the hypothesis testing. It is a mean test, you have a proportion test, you have difference in mean, you have multiple population, you have two population, you have three population, you have n population, you have normal distribution with a limited sample size, you have say bigger sample size. So many tests are available. Depending upon the situation, you have to use a test. So I will just go through some sample test and sample statistics, and we will do fewer example with Python, because hypothesis testing itself is a very vast topic with so many different examples. So these are the steps. You have null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, then collect the relevant data, then decide upon the level of significance, then compute the test values, find the critical value or p-value if it is a p-value method, then take a decisions to reject or not reject, finally summarize your result. These are the steps in your hypothesis testing. The first step is just fix upon a null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. So null hypothesis, normally it is denoted by H0, and alternative hypothesis is denoted by H1. These are the common popular notations which we will be using for null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. So null hypothesis, always it will say you there is no difference, or there is no difference. This is what you will specify in your null hypothesis always, and the opposite of that is called your alternative hypothesis. This is what normally we will fix in your null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. We will see with an example. So alternative hypothesis is always the opposite of your null hypothesis. Okay, so there is no difference is called your null hypothesis, and there exists difference is called your alternative hypothesis. Okay, so this is what is called your null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. So finally, either you will reject your null hypothesis. So what do you mean by rejecting null hypothesis? Automatically you are going to accept the alternative hypothesis. Or if the decision is not rejecting null hypothesis, that means you are accepting null hypothesis. So say for example, a researcher, he wants to find out whether the new medication will have any undesirable side effect. Say the same COVID vaccine, I'm just taking the same example. He just want to know whether you have any side effects of this medicine. Okay, if that is the case, or say the pulse rate is the pulse rate increasing or decreasing? Say the pulse rate is increases, decreases, or remains unchanged after the patient takes this medicine. That is, I have created a medicine. After taking this medicine, whether the pulse rate remains the same, or is it different, or is it increasing, decreasing, or unchanged? So, for in this case, you can say the null hypothesis as there is no difference in the pulse rate. That means mu is it is 72. And what is the alternative hypothesis? There is a difference in the pulse rate if you are taking the medicine. Okay, so this is how you can conclude your null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. I have a medicine. I'm just going to take that medicine. My question, or the answer which I just want to find out was whether the pulse rate, whether there is any deviation in the pulse rate if I'm consuming this medicine. So my null hypothesis is there is no deviation. There won't be any deviation in the pulse rate. And the alternative hypothesis is yes, there is a deviation in the pulse rate if you are consuming this medicine. Again, hope you can see the H naught is mu, the average pulse rate is equal to 72. And H1 is mu is not equal to 72, because I'm not concluding there is no difference. That is, I'm not telling you if the pulse rate is increasing or the pulse rate is decreasing. That is why I'm just giving you generalized statement mu is not equal to 72. Okay, so this is how you can create your null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Say, for example, another situation: a chemist invents an additive to increase the life of an automobile battery. So the previous case, I just want to find out whether there is any changes in the pulse rate or not. So my H naught was there is no change in the pulse rate. My H1 was my pulse rate is changing. I'm not bothered about whether it is increasing or decreasing. The next situation is I'm just adding an additive. I'm just invented an additive. I just want to find out whether this is increasing the automobile battery lifetime. So the normal battery lifetime is 36 months. So I'm just telling you the null hypothesis is there is no change in the lifetime of a battery. It is 36. My alternative hypothesis is I just want to check out whether it is increasing. So my alternative hypothesis is mu greater than 36. So the previous case, there is no change. There is a change. Now there is no change in the lifetime. The alternative hypothesis is yes, there is an increase in the lifetime of the battery. That is the case number 2. Then case number 3 is a contractor wishes to lower the heating bills by using a special type of insulation in a house. So the average monthly heating bills is 75. He just want to check out whether if I am applying such an insulation, whether the heating bill is reducing. So my null hypothesis is there is no change in the bill. That is, it is 78. And my alternative hypothesis is yes, if I'm applying this insulation, my heating bill will be lower than 78. So these are the 3 situations for your null hypothesis and your alternative hypothesis. The first one was there is no change in the pulse rate. Alternative hypothesis was yes, there is a change in the pulse rate. Second situation was the battery lifetime is not changing. Then if I'm adding this additive, yes, there is an increase in the battery lifetime. The next situation is there the heating bill is not changing? That is your null hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis, yes, if you are using this insulation, the heating bill is reducing. So these are the 3 situations of your hypothesis testing. The next one, say you have fewer more examples. If you want, can just go through. Next one, this I think already I told you. The statistical test is uses the data obtained from a sample. Again, I repeat, it is not a population. It is using a sample to make a decision about whether the null hypothesis should be rejected or not. This is what ultimately you're going to do. Then there are 2 types of errors that will happen in the test case. Again, I told you, you can never say with 100% guarantee you will get proper result. That is, you are with a confidence you will be able to see 100% of confidence. There is no such case. So there are chances of smaller errors. So that generally the errors can be divided into two. One is called a type 1 error, another one is called a type 2 error. So what is type 1 error is, type 1 error occurs if you reject the null hypothesis, but actually it is true. So type 1 error is you are rejecting a null hypothesis, which is actually true. And type 2 error is you are not rejecting a null hypothesis, but it is actually false. So these are the two type of errors. Maybe this picture it'll make you a bit more clearer. H0 and H1. So I think there is a small typo. One is H0, another one is H1. So H0 is true, but you are rejecting your H0. That is called your type 1 error. Next one, H0 is false, but you are not rejecting that H0. That is called your type 1 error. Okay. Then what is the correct decision? Correct decision is your H0 is false and you are rejecting H0, and your H0 is true and you are accepting your H0, or you are not rejecting your H0. These are the correct decisions. This diagonal is your correct decision, and the opposite diagonal is called your uh, errors. And there are possibilities, or there are chances for your type 1 error and type 2 error. The only thing what you can do is you can minimize the errors which are happening in your hypothesis testing with the confidence interval. That is the only thing you can do with your confidence interval. Next one, I think already I told you, significance level. That is, how confident are you in saying your result? That is called your confidence interval, or you can say that in the terms of level of significance. That is the maximum probability of committing a type 1 error. That is, you are telling you, or you are saying that ultimately this is the probability that I am making a type 1 error. That is, normally what you have to do is you have to reduce the chances of type 1 error and type 2 error. So I'm just giving you a parameter that is called alpha, which is just telling you maximum probability of committing a type 1 error. Say for example, I'm telling you my alpha is 0.05. What do you mean by alpha is 0.05 is my type 1 probability error is only 0.05. That is 95% of the time I will get correct answer, but there is a probability of 0.05% that I will get a type 1 error. So this is called your level of significance, or that is called your alpha, because before doing any test, you have to fix on a value that is called alpha. For a very critical application, you can make your alpha smaller. And if your application is not that critical, maybe you can make an alpha which is bit larger value. It is possible. So say critical applications like a medical application, you have to make or reduce your alpha as small as possible. So this is what is the next term. You have a null hypothesis, you have an alternative hypothesis, you have a level of significance, or your alpha. Then you have a term that is called beta, or type 2 error, that is called probability of getting a type 2 error. Normally we will talk hypothesis testing in terms of your alpha. Okay. So again, power of a test, you at some point you will say power of a test, 1 minus beta is called your power of the test. Okay, so these are the terms: null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, level of significance or alpha, that is the probability of getting type 1 error. Then beta is a probability of getting type 2 error, and 1 minus beta is called your power of your test. Okay, so these are the terms you have. Again, I told you three type of null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. One was mu is equal to 72, mu is not equal to 72. The next one, mu was 30, mu is equal to 39, mu is greater than 39. The next one was mu is equal to 39 and mu is lesser than 39. So you have three cases. The three cases can be divided into one tail test and a two tail test. So you have two type of test. One is called one tail test. Another one is called two tail test. That is, if you are telling H naught as mu is equal to 75 and mu is greater than 75, you can call that as a right tail test. And I think already I told you an alpha of 0.05. So if your critical value, I hope you're remembering the steps of the test. You have to find out the test statistics, then you have to find out the critical value. So based upon the critical value and the test statistics, if you are reaching that red color region, you can say the null hypothesis is rejected. Okay, so this is what is called a right tail test. So right tail test is your null hypothesis is an equal to and alternative hypothesis is a greater, that is mu is greater than 75. Your critical region will be on the right side of your curve, and those, if your point is coming within that red region, you will reject your null hypothesis. Similarly, if you have a left tail test, that is mu is equal to 72 and H1 is mu is less than 72, your critical region will be on the left of your normal distribution curve. And if your point is getting inside that red color region, you can say the null hypothesis is rejected, or you will say, or in the white color region, you will say it is accepted. So these two are the examples of one tail test. And if the statement is the first one, that is mu is equal to 72 and mu is not equal to 72, you will get a two tail test. That is, you have lesser chances are there, greater chances are there. You are not telling specifically whether this is less than 72 or greater than 72. You are telling it is not 72. So you will get rejection regions on the both side of your bell curve. And if your critical values inside your red region, either on the left side or on the right side, you can say the hypothesis, null hypothesis is rejected, and you will accept your null hypothesis if you are there in the white region. So these are the basic test which you are doing. You have a one tail test, or you have a right tail test, you have a left tail test, or you have a two tail test. So these are the three basic tests which you will be using either with normal distribution or with t distribution or whatever it is. So these are the basic ideas. I think hope already I told you. Again, this value, I think point alpha is equal to 0.10. This minus 1.28 value you will be getting from your normal distribution table. I think I will just tell you how to look up in the normal distribution table. The normal distribution table, from the table only you are getting the critical value as minus 1.28. If the alpha is 0.05, it is minus 1.65, and the alpha is 0.01, it is minus 2.33 for a left tail test. Similarly, you have a positive values for your right tail test, and you have a different values because if it is a two tail test, you have tails on the left hand side and the right hand side, so it will be divided. So there is a slight changes in the values because the looking up at the table is a bit different if you have a two tail test. Okay, so these values you will be getting from the normal distribution table, which you will get from the internet. You have a table, and again different type of normal distribution tables are possible. I'll just show you two type of tables, and from the table you will be able to find out these values. Okay, so these are the values which you will be getting. The steps I think already I explained you. Then before doing any hypothesis testing, we will ask some questions. Okay, so depending upon these questions, we have to decide upon what test you have to do. Is it a Z test or is it a T test? Okay, so the first question which you want to ask is number of samples. Okay, so is it a single sample test or is it a two sample test? Then type of data, are you going to compare mean or are you going to compare proportion? Then whether the population parameter sigma is known or unknown. So depending upon these three decisions, your values or the values which you are going to calculate, it will change. So you have to check up, just decide upon whether you are going to compare only a single sample, or are you going to compare two sample, or is it a single sample test or a two sample test, because tests are different. What type of data you are going to compare? Is it are you telling the mean lifetime of a battery is say 36, or mean lifetime of a battery is lesser than 36? Are you going to compare a mean, or are you going to compare a population proportion? Even you have a variance test. Then the next question is whether the population parameter sigma is known or unknown. So depending upon these three values, the test which you are going to consider will change. So these are the tests which you are going to consider for such a situation. If the sigma, the population, what is sigma? Sigma is a standard deviation of your population. If the sigma is known, then you will do a z-test. And if the sigma is unknown, then you will use a t-test. These are the general assumptions for your hypothesis testing. If the population sigma is known, you will go for a z-test. If the population sigma is unknown, you will go for a t-test. Then testing for proportion, you will use a z-test. Then again, there is a small catch. Z-test can be used when the sample size is more than 30. If it is lesser than 30, you can go for a t-test. Okay. So we will see a fewer examples, and then maybe you will get an idea of when to use a z-test and a t-test. So z-test, it will be with a normal distribution. T-test is called a student T distribution. You have a distribution that is called T distribution. It is almost similar to your Z distribution. As the number of samples increases, it will become approximately normal. So these are the steps. Why I'm telling you these equations is, this is the same equation we are going to apply even in the Python notebook. So at least you should be familiar with these equations. So testing for mean, the test statistics can be found out using one sample. So I'm just taking for a one sample Z test. So it is x bar minus mu divided by sigma by root n. So this is the equation for finding out the test statistics if you are using one sample Z test. I'll explain you the terms. X bar is a sample mean, mu is a population mean, sigma is a population standard deviation, and n is your sample size. So the Z statistics, or the test statistics for one sample Z test is x bar minus mu divided by sigma by root n. That is, x bar is a sample mean, mu is a population mean, sigma is a population standard deviation, and n is your sample size. So once you get the test statistic, again similarly, say for example, sigma is not known. I think already I told you, you have two cases: population standard deviation known, or population standard deviation is unknown. So if the sigma is unknown, then we can go for a t-test. It is one sample t-test. The equation is exactly the same. The only thing is, population standard deviation is replaced by sample standard deviation S. Okay, so equation is the same. It is x bar minus mu divided by S by root n. So this is what is called your sigma is unknown. It is called your t-test and one sample t-test. The previous one was one sample z-test with sigma known. Another one is one sample t-test with sigma is unknown. So these are the two popular tests. Then I will just show you one of some equations, general equations. It is a testing for proportion. It is a z-test. It is p cap minus p divided by root of pn by n. All these are the standard equations. So standard equations for finding out the test statistics. Okay. Then you have two sample. It is, all these things are dealing with one sample. And if you have two samples, so if you want to compare two samples, say for example, I'll tell you with an example of two samples. Say for example, I just want to compare the average performance of students in University A and University B. Okay, so you have two samples. Again, two samples, you have independent samples and dependent samples you have. So time being, I'll just tell you with an example of, I just want to find out, or I just want to compare the average marks of students which are there in University A and University B, or I can say class A and class B. That is, its own samples are totally different. So you have two samples with you. So x1 bar is there, x2 bar is there. That is, it is x1 bar is the average of first sample, x2 bar is the average of second sample, and sigma 1 is the population 1 standard deviation, and sigma 2 is the population 2 standard deviation. I will just tell you this example, very simple example. Average marks of students, or say average salary or average CTC of students of two universities I want to compare, say University A and University B. So I'm taking samples, say 10 students from University A, 10 students from University B. Then you will have totally different populations, but you have two samples. So that is what is called your two sample Z test. I'm not going into the details of these tests because it is maybe you would have studied or known all these ideas in statistics portion. Then if the sigma, see here it is sigma is known, so that you have a sigma 1 square, sigma 2 square is available with you. Say for example, if the standard deviation, that is the sigma 1 and sigma 2 is unknown, then you can replace that with the sample standard deviation with the different equation. Okay, so these are the equations which are available for different type of test. So just first thing what you have to decide upon is what test you are going to consider, or what you want to find out. Then check out whether sigma is known or sigma is unknown. Depending upon that, you have to select the equation and the parameter you have to specify. Okay, so these are the common or the popular examples or popular equations for one sample, two sample, and your proportion. So we will first see a very simple example. The first example is say for example, a researcher reports that the average salary of assistant professor is more than 42,000. A sample of 30 assistant professors has a mean salary is given, and your alpha is given, and you just want to check out whether it is more than. Okay, so how will you write your null hypothesis? Null hypothesis, I'll tell you, it is equal to 42,000. That is, the mean average salary is equal to 42,000. That is your H naught. And what is your H1? H1 will tell you mean average salary is greater than 42,000. Then I have a sample size n is equal to 30, and you have a 30 assistant professor mean is given, that is called 43,260. That is, x bar is equal to 43,260. Then you have a standard deviation of the population, sigma is given as 5230. So hope you know how to interpret this. You have h naught is equal to average salary is equal to 42,000. H1 is equal to average salary is greater than 42,000. N is equal to 30. X bar is equal to 43,260. You have an alpha with you. Then you have a standard deviation about the population. Sigma is given 5230. So the test which you are going to apply is one sample Z test. This is what you are going to apply. So I just give you an example of how to apply. Okay, so this is how you will be able to find out what test you have to apply. Okay. So then again, you have some more test that is called your chi-square test. I will show you one example of your chi-square test also. Chi-square is say if you have categorical data, you can compare your categorical data using a chi-square test. Till now, what we have seen is z-test and a t-test. But you have another test that is called chi-square test. Chi-square is used for categorical data, you can find out the test using chi-square test, and you have the equation. It is observed minus expected the whole square divided by expected. This is the equation of the chi-square test. It is a non-parametric test. Again, I'm not going into the detail. You have a set of parametric test. You have a set of non-parametric test also you have. Okay. So these are the steps for applying your chi-square test. So I will tell you with a simple example how to do this test statistics using a very simple example. Then we will go for the implementation, how to do this with the Python. Okay. So first, once a researcher claims that the average speed in a certain city is 8 miles per hour. So this is my question. So average is given. A sample of 32 days has an average wind speed of 8.2 miles per hour. The standard deviation of the population is given, it is 0.6 miles per hour, and alpha is given 0.05. So I just want to find out whether this is accepted or rejected. So I will just say first I will just create your null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. From the question, you will be able to identify a researcher claims that the average wind speed in a city is 8 miles. So I'll just tell you the null hypothesis as it is 8 miles, and he is not claiming it is less than or greater than, it's not telling anything. So I will just create you an alternative hypothesis that average is not 8. So this is how you can create your null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. So average wind speed is 8 is your null hypothesis, and average wind speed is not 8 is your alternative hypothesis. Again, from the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis itself, you will be able to understand whether this is a single tail test or a two tail test. If the H1 was less than or greater than, then you can say it is a left tail or a right tail test. Since it is a not equal to case on the alternative hypothesis, by default, you should understand it is a two tail test. Then the C statistics, I think the equation you remember, it is x bar minus mu by sigma by root n. That is your Z statistics value. So x bar, I think already it was given sample average, that is called your 8.2, which is already given in the question. Then mu is 8, that is already given. Then sigma is known. Sigma is the standard deviation about the population. It is already known, that is called 0.6 divided by number of sample is 32, that is it is square root of 32. So this is how you will find out the Z statistics for the test. The next question is from the C statistics and the p-value method, you should identify whether this test is accepted or rejected, or ultimately you have to say whether the average wind speed is 8 miles or not. That is your question. So you just want to find out whether the average wind speed is 8 miles or not. For that, we will apply a p-value method. So p-value method, what you have to do is, see, you got a value, Z statistics value is 1.89. So the next question is, you have to see the 1.89 on the Z table. So probably I can just display you the Z table. That will be easy for you. Are you able to see the Z table?
Yes, ma'am.
Z table, are you able to see the Z table with the, or I will just share you the Z table maybe in the chat. Is that okay?
Z table we are not able to see.
Just a second, ma'am. I will just upload. Can I upload files here? Just a second, ma'am. Maybe I'll share my screen so that entire screen. Now, are you able to see the C table, ma'am? Hope it is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So 1 point, the value which I got was 1.89. So this you can see so many type of C tables are available. I'll show you one more type of C table. So this is the common C table which is appearing. So depending upon the shaded region on the C table, you should be able to interpret. One more thing is altogether, it is since it is a normal distribution, the altogether area it is 1 and it is symmetrical about your mean. So the left hand side and right hand side is 0.5, 0.5. So either you can take a C table like this, that is the shaded region. From the shaded region, you should be able to identify what do you mean by this C table. So I will just take you, the shaded region is the entire thing. So I'm just taking you 1.89. So the value is 1.89. So you can see the value, it is 0.9706. So what do you mean by that is from 1.86 and plus 1.86 and below, the area of the Z curve is 0.9706. Hope it is clear. So from the C table, the shaded region ends with a point that is called 1.89 and the area is 0.9706. That means the entire area is 1 point, that is the entire area below 1.89 is 0.9706. And the area after that, the area after 1.86 to infinity is 1 minus 0.9706. So the area shaded, that is the area below 1.86 is 0.9706. So I just want an area. See, I want an area after 1.86 and it should be equally divided among 2. So I will get an area after 1.86 is 0.1 minus 0.9706. So you will get 0.0294. So you will get a 0.0294. That is the area. But the area is since it is a two-tailed test. Since the area it is a two-tailed test, the p-value is 2 into 0.20294 because you have tails at the both ends. So you will get 0.2 into 0.0294. That means you will get 0.0588. That will be your p-value. And one more thing is ultimately, so from the picture, I think it is visible. You have my alpha. The alpha value is 0.05. The alpha value is 0.05 and the p-value which you are getting is 0.0588. So the p-value is greater than your 0.05, or you can consider that into half also. Since it is a two-tail, I can say 0.05 is my alpha. Since it is a two-tail test, I will divide this alpha equally into 2 halves. So I'll get 0.025 on the left hand side and 0.025 on the right hand side. And I'll get a 0.0294 on my p-value. So since 0.0294 is greater than your 0.025, that is 0.025 and below is the shaded region. That is, it is your rejection region. Or on the right hand side, 0.025 and above is your rejection region. Since you are getting a value which is greater than this, the p-value which is greater than this, then you can say, yes, it is in the white region, it is not in the shaded region. Then you can say your null hypothesis is accepted. So if you are getting, say for example, assume after calculation, I'm getting a p-value as, say for example, it is 0.0294 now. Say for example, I got a p-value which is 0.022. If I'm getting a 0.022, that means it is the value is within your shaded region of your normal distribution. Then you have to take a decision that your null hypothesis is rejected. So in this case, you are getting a value which is in the non-shaded region. Then what do you mean by that is you can't reject the null hypothesis. So ultimate decision is you are accepting your null hypothesis and you can say ultimately, yes, the average wind speed is 8 miles per hour. So this is how you can take, this is a very simple two-tail test for your normal distribution with the Z test. If you are using a t-test, actually you have to go for a t-distribution with the degrees of freedom. So this is a very simple z-test. I'll just go through once again. First, null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. Then find out the z-value. Then look at your normal distribution table and find out the p-value. Then check out whether the p-value is greater than your alpha. If the p-value is greater than your alpha, you can accept your null hypothesis, or if it is in the reverse, you have to reject your null hypothesis. So since in this case, since it is accepting null hypothesis, ultimately I can say, yes, the average wind speed is 8 miles per hour. Similarly, you can create, say for example, another data set you have. You will be able to find out, yes, there is no change in the BP if you are taking this medicine. Or you can say if it is rejected, say my null hypothesis is there is no change in the BP. My alternative hypothesis is there is a change in the BP if you are taking the medicine. Say if you are accepting the null hypothesis, you can say, yes, there is no change in the BP at all, it is 72. If you are rejecting the null hypothesis, indirectly you are accepting your alternative hypothesis and you are telling, no, there is some changes in your BP if you are taking the medicine. Similarly, you can do conclusions for your left tail test and the right tail test depending upon the Z table values and your critical values. The only difference is you will have values only either on the left hand side or on the right hand side. Since it is a two tail test, I'm just dividing equally into two, or I'm multiplying if you want to find out the p value. Okay, so this is what ultimately it will happen. This is a very simple one sample Z test, but you have so many other tests are available. You have two sample, you have left tail, you have right tail, you have proportion. So many examples we have. So for this question alone, I will just show you how to create the test statistics. See, I'm just giving you this value. Hope it is visible to you. The major function, say the same example, I'll clarify. This is 1.89. That is my z value which I'm getting. So in my Python, I have a function that is called stats.norms.cdf. So I have a function that is called stats.norms.cdf. And since I'm just giving you it is a two-tail test, if I'm running, actually the p-value which I'm getting here is 0.0588. So exactly the same value you will be able to produce. The same equation I applied here. One is the total area. Then stats.normal.cdf. CDF is called your cumulative distribution function. It is not run. It is called your cumulative distribution function. So it is your cumulative distribution function. That is why you will get the area below, the total area below 1.89. So you will get a total area below 1.89. I'm just subtracting 1 minus that value into 2. The same calculation which I did here, I'm doing that with the Python code. So ultimately you will get 1 minus stat.norm.cdf absolute of 1.89. It will give you an answer of this 1.89, that is 0.9706. Then I'm subtracting 1 from that, and into 2, you can see the p-value. It is 0.0588 round off. So this is the function which is used. It is there in the stat package. It is stats dot, since it is a normal distribution, you are looking on the normal distribution or Z table, you are giving stats dot norm, and CDF is a cumulative distribution function that is called a CDF. If you are using T distribution, you can apply stats dot T dot CDF, then it will be converted into a T distribution with degrees of freedom. So this is what a very simple exercise can be done. I will show you the same thing with the data set. Say for example, this one, average, say I have a data set that is called nba.csv. So I have a data set nba.csv. This nba.csv, it will give you, say, the value something like this. You have names, then some information about your players will be there. I'm just reading the data set as usual. So I'm just reading the data set. My null hypothesis is, which I'm going to create is whether yes, the null hypothesis which I'm going to create is the average height of NBA player is 200.66 centimeters. So this is what I just want to check, whether the average height of the NBA player is 200.66 from this information. I have a data set. I have a data set of 490 players and so many columns you have. So my question is, I have a column that is called height. So you can just scroll right and see, you can have a column that is called your height. So I just want to find out whether the average height of an player is 200.66, and my alternative hypothesis is the average height is not 200.66. So hope you understood. The null hypothesis is height is equal to 200.66 and alternative hypothesis is height is not equal to 200.66. So it is a clear evidence that it is a two-tailed test. So it is a two-tailed Z test we will apply. So first thing, I'm just giving you the average is equal to 200.66. This is what I'm just applying. Then I have my sample. How many samples I have? I have a sample that is of data 490. Data is with me. So I'm just creating my X bar. The equation is X bar minus mu divided by sigma by root n. That is my equation. Hope you are remembering this equation. X bar minus mu by sigma by root n. Exactly the same thing I'm going to reproduce with this data set. So my X bar will be the data frame height dot mean. So you will get the sample mean of 490 people I'm getting with that. Then I'm getting a sigma value. Sigma is equal to again standard deviation. I think already I told you have a standard deviation by I'm just giving you standard deviation by sigma by root n. So I'm just reproducing the same equation. Then Z statistics will be X bar minus mu by sigma. The sigma is totally sigma by root n. I just find out one more thing is, it is the population standard deviation is not known. So you can replace that with S for time being. So S by root n. And I'm just finding out the p-value as usual. Since it is a two-tailed test, I'm just giving you stats.norms.cdf. The C value I'm applying over here instead of 1.89, which we got for the sample problem. Similarly, you are reproducing this from the data set. And I'm just applying the same equation. The p-value, I'm just displaying the p-value. It is a very smaller value. Can you see the value? It is 4.44 into 10 power minus 16. So it is a very smaller value which you are getting. Say for example, I'm considering the alpha value as say 0.05. My alpha value is 0.05. P value is a very, very small value. So what I'll get? So my alpha value is 0.05 and my P value is a very small value. So ultimately, I'm getting the P value within my rejection region. So ultimately, I can say, I can reject the null hypothesis saying that the average height of NBA players is not 200.6. So this is how you can apply hypothesis testing on a data set. Say this is my value which I have given. Then all those values I will be able to find out from the data set. So this is X bar, then sigma by root n, then applying the same equation with Z statistics, and I'm applying the statistics in the function that is called stats.norm.cdf and applying the same equation, something exactly similar which we applied on the manual problem, and I'm getting a p-value. Since my alpha is 0.05, I'm considering my alpha is equal to 0.05, I can say with the confidence of 95% confidence, I can say the average height of NBA players is not 200.6. So this is how you can conclude with a data set. So if you want, I can just give you the data set, nbaplayers.csv. I will just download and give you the data set. Maybe you can just have a trial of, because only with fewer statements you will get the answer. Just have a trial of. Is there any possibility I can share a file? I don't have any idea how to share. Okay, drive link is only possibility. Okay, fine. Then I'll give you the drive link because it's already there in my drive. I'll just share. I'll just give you the drive link. Just a second, I can share with you. Just check out this link. Are you able to access? I don't have any idea. Just can you please go through the link and check out whether that NBA dataset is available in that folder? Are you able to access those datasets? Even all the dataset for this exercise is given there. Are you able to access? I don't have any idea.
It is requesting permission. You need to remove the access, ma'am. Restrictions you have to remove them.
Just a second, sir. I'll just give anyone with the link.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this fine now? Yes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to access, sir?
Thank
you so much.
Yes.
Then hope if you're using the direct Google Colab along with the drive, I think you have to give these two lines. Hope you are familiar with these two lines because you have to mount the drive. Or if you're using the local one, it is perfectly fine. Download the data, and if you're downloading it locally, it is fine. But if you are using Google Colab, make your own copies, and if you're using with your own Colab link, first you have to mount the drive, then you have to give permissions to your drive, then only you will be able to access this if you're using from drive. But I don't know how you are accessing. Read underscore CSV is a function used for accessing your data. Read your data first of all, then as a next step, what you can do is, if you want, you can find out the shapes. Then just, this is the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, that also I'm just pasting there so that you will get an idea. This is your null and alternative hypothesis. Then find out the mean. Mean is already there. Then you have to find out the X bar. That is the next step. Just create your X bar. Then create your sigma with sigma by root n. Then Z statistics, you have to find out the Z statistics. Then you will be able to find out the p-value. From the p-value, you can conclude. Again, for p-value comparison, if you want, you can just put an if statement in Python. Whether if p-value is less than alpha, then just you can print the statement saying that it is rejected or it is accepted. Those statements, if you want, you can add. Normally, we used to add such a sentence. Hope you are able to do that. So stats.norm.cdf, that is a function which is used for creating your values. It is there in stats package. Actually, all these statistical functionalities are there in a package that is called stats. I'll just quickly go through this code also. I'll just share you this code with you. Maybe it is easy for you. Next one, since we have seen an example of single sample, I'll just show you quickly go through a two sample test also. You can just go through two sample test. The equations are here. T value, you have a sigma value, degrees of freedom, so many values you have to. So those equations, I'm just taking out the cities.csv, and I just want to compare the literacy rate of say two states. I'm just comparing the literacy rate of say Punjab and say Delhi. So I just want to find out, or I just want to compare. I just want to see, my statement is the literacy rate of Punjab and Delhi is the same. I just want to check out whether the literacy rate of Punjab and Delhi is the same. So H naught is Punjab and Delhi is having, there is no difference in the literacy rate of Punjab and Delhi. What is H1? H1 is there is a change in the literacy rate of Punjab and Delhi. So this is a statement of H0 and H1. So what you have to do is just extract the value of Punjab alone from the data set. Hope these are coming under pre-processing step. That is, you are getting the value of state name where it is Punjab and state name it is Delhi. Then you are fetching the literacy rate alone. Then I'm just finding out the mean and standard deviation. I think already we know what is mean and standard deviation. Then null hypothesis, I think already I told you. The mean literacy rate of Punjab and Delhi is the same. Alternative hypothesis is the literacy rate of Punjab and Delhi are not the same. That is the two statements which I have. Then what should I find out for the t-test? I should have so many parameters find out. So I'm just finding out all those parameters. You have a degrees of freedom. In a t statistics, you have an extra parameter that is called degrees of freedom. So you are finding out mean. Then there is a small difference in the equation too. It is x1 bar minus x2 bar. I think already I showed you that in a PPT. X1 bar minus x2 bar divided by square root of s square into 1 by n1 plus 1 by n2. That is your T statistics. It is not a Z statistics. It is a T statistics. So I'm just finding out all those values. Then I'm just finding out the degrees of freedom. Then I think already I told you the previous function was stats.normal.cdf with a Z value. Now it is not a Z test, it is a T test. So I'm applying stats.t.cdf. It'll accept you two parameters for T distribution. You can just browse through the T distribution. It will have a T distribution along with a value and the degrees of freedom. So it will just take you the T statistics along with the degrees of freedom. Again, I hope you understand this is a two-tailed test because it is the statement is the null hypothesis is the literacy rate of Punjab and Delhi are the same. They are equal. The alternative hypothesis they are not equal. So it is a two-tailed test. So I'm applying the same value over here, and ultimately with a p-value, I'm getting a p-value. Say for example, alpha is 0.05. I'm getting a p-value as 0.904. So it is greater. So it is coming in the acceptance region. So I can say that yes, null hypothesis is accepted. There is the literacy rate of Punjab and Delhi are the same. So you can just make conclusions like this. So similarly, you can do all the tests for even proportion. I have a proportion test and a chi-square test below. Those who are interested, you can just go through. It is everything. And again, this test is called stats.chi-square.contingency because it is called a chi-square test. So the first test which we saw is stats.normal.cdf. It was stats.t.cdf. It will take you two parameters. Then if you're going for a chi-square test, it is stats.chi-square.contingency, and you have to give a contingency table here. Contingency table, I think it is a count of say male and female. Actually, this test is for, I will just tell you the test statements alone. The null hypothesis is there is no relationship between country preference and the gender of the customer. And the alternative hypothesis is yes, there is a country preference and gender of the customer is related. So I have to create a contingency table with the gender, female, male, female, and I'm just taking you only as some specific countries, say France, Germany, and Italy. So I'm just creating a contingency table. Then this observed minus expected, this is the equation. So if you are getting a contingency table like this, the function which we can use is stats.chi-square underscore contingency. Then it will give you a chi-square value and a p-value. Then as usual, you will be able to find out those test statistics using the p-value, and you can conclude whether it is you have to accept the null hypothesis or reject the null hypothesis. So this is the basic definition. Similarly, I have one more example that is called proportion. That proportion also, that is proportion. Is there any change in the suicide rate in India? Gender specification, is it there? That is the proportion test. Men and women are equally likely to commit suicide, but alternative hypothesis is men and women are not equally likely to commit suicide. Why it is coming under proportion is the proportion of men and women is different in India. That is, I think it is out of 940. That is only 940 women are there for proportionate to 1,000 males in India. That is maybe a bit older case. So it is coming under the proportion case, and you will be able to find out those statistics with Python. Okay, so yeah, I'll just share you this IPython notebook so that it is you can just try out the data sets I shared you already, and those equations I have put here. So hope you are clear with the hypothesis testing. Again, hypothesis testing, it is not just like that we can finish within a class or so. I think it is a very, as you know, a hypothesis testing itself, it will take you so long. Maybe with this basic idea, you can explore further. Thank you. Do you have any queries, please?